In 2016, Planet Coaster dropped, and I built Space Mountain. However, in the alpha it wasn't really that great looking, as you can see in front of you, and I decided to do this again. In 100 days, I completely rebuilt Space Mountain. After a year of development and updates, Planet Coaster has been in a state where I decided to rebuild Space Mountain. I have to mention that at this point in time, there were no billboards in the game. So if you have seen later builds where people use the billboards to get the exact dimensions from like Google Earth images and you know, concept arts, I didn't have that back in the day, and so the proportions and the relations of this aren't really completely on point. They are somewhat on point relating towards what the game offers and in terms of the coaster. You can see I did a couple of things here by using some of the pieces to assure that, you know, the coaster is big enough and works, and, you know, also the choice of coaster, obviously, for those nerds amongst you, you will notice that this is not the correct track of Space Mountain, but this is what we got at this time. And yeah, I rebuilt the entire shell. As you can see, there is still some remains of some testing and so on, and just for you to notice, this is ridiculous what I used over there. It's like one of these iron beams over here consists out of 202 pieces. If we go into that and edit the group, I just figure you can't double click this in this game. It's insane. Also, obviously, you can, the custom pieces from the TMTK weren't available back then as well. But if you click in here, you can see these are like the wooden pieces I used, because I figured this looks like a little bit, a bit more like used iron, you know, as if there's like a bit of corrugated in here, not crazy, but like from a distance, you know, it looked a lot more interesting and detailed than if you used like the simple art-shaped pieces like the ones I used down here, this little rectangular piece. But as you can see, everything is like a single piece. I didn't, you know, stop to go there in all these little pieces, and then I went on building these, I want to call them, cake pieces or pizza pieces, pizza slices, however you want to call this. There you go, one of these slices, and I used the rotation trick to get the shell done. And if we have a brief look into the shell, you will also figure out that there is already the entire layout in here done. So I wanted to see if it fits in. It's quite okay. I needed to do a little bit of a trick here and there to get the whole thing done, because some of the real elements of the coaster weren't in game, so I needed to be a bit more, you know, creative here to figure out what to do. So the second lift hill, as you will see in the later stage of this one, will be done in a bit of a different way. But yeah, so you'll see that once we go on. So let's move to the next step in my challenge here. This one over here, the next update, will show you already quite a kind of a crazy leap forward, but also a part of history of Planet Coaster. More about that in a second. Now, this save is from the 2nd of February of 2017. My god, that makes me feel even older. But you can see there was a huge leap forward. I made almost the entire cannon design, as you can see over here. I still, till this day, find it super slick, and it looks really, really nice. Exactly the kind of feeling and atmosphere I wanted to create with these like open shutters that, like, you know, they technically in the real thing they open up and shut down when the coaster goes down through here. And then we have these antennas on top that kind of illuminate once you go up. And you can even see these wonderful lights over here. And I'm not sure if they're already triggered. I do know that I have triggered them later on. So let's see if I already did the trigger effect. It seems I didn't. I'm not even sure if at this point the track kind of machine was already existing. So you can trigger these lights by the coaster passing by with the effect panel. And I did this later on because this is, this is how the real Space Mountain also did it. Like when the coaster goes here, they have like these little lights go on top that make it seem like as if the coaster was really shot into, yeah, towards the moon in the original Space Mountain. You know, it's a journey to the moon by Jules Verne. Now, as I was just hinting at a little bit of history, this over here looks a bit odd and a little bit off over here, but these pieces that you can see down here in this whole wonderful plaza, which again is custom made, you can see this concrete column cap, for example, is in the wrong color. And this is because when I was building this thing was not flexicolor. Frontier added this function later along the line when this thing was already built. So some of the pieces in here will actually actually have the wrong color because they've been reset to their original color, and I have used them and they have been changed in color, unfortunately. But you can also see I was starting to build out some of these areas, specifically trying a couple of things. I made the entrance panel over here where they can go in. I tried to experiment around here what I'm going to use for these wonderful kind of basalt stone or basalt. I don't know, how to call that, but you can see again I was using instead of stone I was actually using wooden pillars because I figured that the texture was actually a lot better than the stone texture. And if you compare that to, for example, Planet Zoo, where the stones are a lot better, you can see how kind of bad the stone texture was in this game. So this is why I decided to go with the wooden one. A lot of Z fighting though. Should have focused a bit more on this. But yeah, so I was very happy with how this kind of basalt stone kind of thing worked. And as you can see, I was starting to lay out all the different areas, making that little small bridge over here where the back of the Nautilus will be in, the bridge that goes over the water feature. Like in general, it was becoming a lot more detailed. And it's kind of funny because I noticed that I'm also running at like 50 FPS, 40, 50 FPS right now, which is already dramatically lower than in the last one. And remembering that I had a way weaker computer back then, I don't even know how I did this. I think interior, yeah, a part of the queue, there is not really anything major changed. So let's move on. So this leap forward is pretty insane. Actually, this is only 6 days later, the 8th of February 2017. And oh boy, have I been on a roll. My God, how much time I had back then. But you can see I actually redid a little bit of the cannon design. As you can tell over here, I was doing a couple of things with the cannon to make it even look a lot better and more detailed. This is the finished version. You can see there's even the little scope on top of here, so you can see that this is actually to for the shooting. We have a lot of details now in the Columbia sign. We also have some details on. We've got this little sun icon, which is where you can angle the cannon towards the right position. And I was changing a lot of things dramatically. What you can also tell is that I kept on going here with the lower area, a lot more of the basalt. We've done a bit more of the plaza work over here. I made some more custom lanterns. I figured they haven't been in the last one. Honestly, even till this day, these are amongst my favorite realization of custom lanterns in this game. Many people may actually watch this video who have not been there with the Planet Coaster time, and a lot of things that are super common nowadays in Planet Zoo haven't been there in the Planet Coaster time. So a lot of these techniques and little tricks have been established in the Planet Coaster days, and this is working a lot with these little icing pieces. I remember that these have been a huge influence back in the day. Let me see if I can click on some of those, because we didn't really have any of decals or small pieces, so I needed to become more creative and also figure out what kind of pieces we can use. And you can see this is gingerbread. What's that again? Gingerbread icing, exactly. So that is kind of crazy to think that we had these back in the day, to use them as little icons, or not icons, but details, I want to say, in here. So that was really cool. I made 2 different variants of it, like one with one single lantern. I was figuring the size of, it's a kind of nice looking. Normally I don't show these things, but you can really tell how the process is of me looking at this is like a comparison over here, because we obviously have this one over here, which is the normal iron scale lamppost in the game. So this was also to match the in-game sizes. And speaking of the size, remember a couple of safe before I told you that I wasn't or I didn't have the chance to make the right measurements, and I was basing this whole thing in the Planet Coaster measurements, and they are all a little bit too big, like 10 to 20%, 10. This is, by the way, if you mix 10 and 20, it's 10, just so you know. But yeah, no, between 10 and 20%, everything is too big, too upscaled in this game. Everything's like 4 meters tall for the facilities and stuff. It's all a bit too much, to be honest. But yeah, you can also see I started with the station design. And honestly, Space Mountain, Disneyland Paris version, for me personally, has one of the best station designs in the world of any coaster. It is... I don't know, it just has everything. It's super big, it has this feeling of a spaceport, but then again it doesn't, because it's such a interesting and retro futuristic vibe. It's not really steampunk, it's almost like a little bit of the beginning of steampunk, the Jules Verne version of steampunk. I don't know, I'm obsessed with this, and you can see how much in detail I went with all of this here, using so many weird pieces to make it look good. I think, you know, Planet Coaster has this very weird appearance that from a distance everything looks super detailed and as if I nailed the design completely. And that was always almost like impressionism, you know, which I like, one of my favorite art forms in general. But the closer you get, the more weird it becomes. You can see what kind of weird pieces I used to achieve that. Again, some of these icing pieces over here, and this is one of the coolest iron textures. I wish we had something like that in Planet Zoo. We don't. I love this. I remember how often I use this. But again, over here, I used some weird pieces, sticking it in to make this pillar feel a bit more natural and textured, and I just really went deep on that. And I'm not sure if this was already the beginning of the queue in the inside. Let's quickly check that out. Nah, not yet. Okay, so that is then the next save we're going to look at is a bit more of the interior work and just how it all came together. So the next one is a massive leap forward. Actually, this is exactly a month later, so it was actually the 11th of March, just a month later, and you can see I completely went nuts in these, I don't know, 4 weeks, what in between. I don't even actually have another save in between, so it seems like I've been working like a madman and then just saved it. You can see a lot of cleanup has been happened in the meantime. We have this wonderful Nautilus, which is one complete item, which I also uploaded to the workshop later on, which is ridiculous. And I remember that I even had the idea to make the interior. Spoiler, I didn't. So this is just like a lot of pieces in the interior, because I figured at some point I can't squeeze anything in there. However, we made even these little booths here where you can actually go into the Nautilus. For those of you who don't know, this is not really a ride. You can actually go inside of this. There is the entrance over here, and it's like part of the overall area of Space Mountain, which is really cool. And then this is where the exit of Space Mountain comes out, where you actually cross over the launch section, and you can see that from over here, which as a kid I always found so cool. Look in here, and then you can see the launch, and you could even stand here and see them being shot into the coaster. You just experienced that, and you're like, oh my god, these people are about to experience and witness the same greatness that I did. We now have the roof on top of this one. We have custom flags over here. Remember, as I said, there are a lot of pieces that have been brought into the game, like, you know, billboards and actual flags and so on. They did not exist at this time. This is all custom made out of a bajillion pieces. But again, you know, impressionism hits again. The further you go away, the more the idea is sold, and I'm still very sold on what I did back then. I just am so impressed. A lot of things missing. You can see I made these little towers here as one piece. Again, 413 pieces. Gosh, I think in the last part we are just trying to see how many pieces they were in total. And yeah, now figuring out that I deleted the whole top. I actually remade the entire top to do the tagging here of the pieces and stuff like that. So I completely ripped it apart to make it new, because I wasn't feeling it. And I knew that I needed to redo it in a certain way. And as you can see, there are also some parts over here that mark the interior design of the queue, at least some of what this will be looking like. So if we are flying in here, you can see there are also now these little custom tiny towers on top of it. The bridge is built, and if we go in here, whoops, they can see it. The whole queue is now done. I even put some images in. Yet again, I did not have billboards to put the actual images in. That was a bit of a pity, but I completely made the queue so that people were able to move through here, you know, everything. You even have that look where the braking section will be. Later on, this is all going to be themed as well. And then the further you move, the whole overall styling changes. And then you go out of this one and you come into the station. There are a lot of little mistakes in here because I didn't have the correct plan at that time. I'm still a bit annoyed that they are in these kind of little mistakes, because I felt like I had nailed it, but I just figured later that there was a mistake. You will see that I tried to save it somehow. There will be a lot of changes in the next save, but you can see the whole thing is coming together now. So let's move on to the next one. 20 days later, this save is actually from the 30th of March 2017, and you can see the indoors is shaping slowly. Remember, in the last little cut we have been looking at the queue design as we were in here, and now I also started to make this yeah, what exactly is that? I don't even, is it hyperdrive or like the Tesla's energy area? I don't know. This is something where in the original version, there was like a huge energy kind of catapult going on over here, or energy system. And I built this in mostly the exact same fashion, like with the energy generators on top. And there will be a lot of events in the final version, which we're going to have a look at in the next cut. But it turned out a lot better at the end than I was expecting at this very moment in here. I wasn't too happy about this because the coaster actually comes in at a very high speed, which it will remain until the very end. I'm gonna say I'm not really pleased with the coaster, but again, this is in the second year of Planet Coaster. Many updates haven't been in the game, including the friction slider, for example, hasn't been a thing, and all these other controls that would have made for a better coaster, specifically when it comes to changing coaster designs and coaster trains and stuff like that. All of these things haven't been part of the game back in the day when I was doing it. But going at the outside, you can see that I even changed a couple of things again. You can see it's a bit more completed by now. We have the roof on top again. It looks pretty similar, but trust me, these things are different in that sense, that are a tiny bit more clean, a tiny bit more nice looking. And if I'm not completely wrong, I'm not sure if the events are done at this point, but we can actually try to go to PM and see if they are animated. I think, no, they're not at this point, still not. But I prepared everything. As you can see, there is now the lower end is lit, and you can also see that the station is lit in a nice way. I started to do the lighting here to the outside. We have a bit more of these wonderfully designed hedges, like very accurately cut and nicely made. So we are going towards the final stages of the design, and I'm at 30 FPS right now. So it must have been a pain at this point on my old computer, because you know, it's been a couple of years, and my new computer was actually a huge step forward. The last one was really not even remotely as good as this one. So having 30 FPS in here, I mean, fairly, we have to also mention that the game is isn't optimized anymore, so I'm not sure what the new rig is actually pulling out of it. It's not really that much more as it could if it's been optimized for more modern CPUs and GPUs, but hey. Yeah, you can see the station. I put a second one to the right hand side just for the sake of realism. This isn't functioning, as you can see. There's like a dead end over here. Yes, with mods and so on, and you know, at a later stage of the game where they disabled the controls, we could have done this, but you can see I made this as like this kind of switch over here, like in the real Space Mountain. Over here we have this little cut where you can go either to the right or to the left hand side, and the trains are separated to have a super nice guest flow. And yeah, so this is how it looks. You can see indoor at night isn't actually perfect, but it's good enough, so that's fine. And I guess this is the moment where we go to, after day 100, the final result. And there we are, 20th of April 2017, exactly 100 days after I've started this. This is the final version of Space Mountain Mission 2. I have actually done a lot of changes later along the line. I did a second track and so on. My brother was also working in here. But, you know, to be fair, this is the finished version that I also uploaded to the Steam Workshop that many people actually have reviewed on YouTube back then, which I'm still very pleased about. And this is, as you can see, a crazy leap forward, considering there were only about 20 days between the last save and this one. That has been a massive improvement. And I can show you actually what I mean by that. So first of all, you can see the entrance area in general with this absolutely custom sign. This thing is built entirely in-game. I have not used any mod or anything else. There's no billboard, anything like that. This is fully custom made, but also equally, you can tell the problem with the size of this entire build. Like, if you delete all the people, it looks super perfect, but if you check the people in comparison, everything is a tiny bit too big. You know, even this operator booth over here looks like as if the people are all small versions of what they should be. So this is potentially the biggest complaint I have about this version. Again, the explanation is pretty obvious. Back in the day, there was barely any chance to do it differently. And also, if you look at the sizes of the pieces, there wasn't really the chance to go much smaller with this level of detail. It's just a Planet Coaster issue. Planet Zoo obviously had better pieces to achieve something like that, but it didn't have any roller coasters, so well, that could have been a bit of a problem. However, you can see that I also embedded these things in the water, like these kind of custom water barriers that you will find in the original one. I cleaned up all the edges. I made sure that the entrance area is all cleaned up. Even the exit is now finally done. I kind of finished this in the end, that I even connected the exit over here. I think in this version the exit actually comes out here. Yeah, exactly. This is where the exit comes out for the version of it. That was just like for me personally to keep it simple. But I made a later version of this where there is actually the connection to the other side. That was a huge hassle. But I even made things like, for example, this backstage area over here where you have some crap lying around and there's like an entrance to, I think, what's in there? I forgot what is in there. Ah, yeah, there's a wall, but it brings you into the actual area of the coaster. Okay, well, forgot that this is not finally connected, but hey, you know, this is like just like this tiny bit of a detail that I like to implement, like with this kind of custom gate over here. And on the back side, there is nothing really, just like a bit of scenery here and there just to finish it all off and make sure that you have a coherent area. This is just to make the people come here, so this is not part of it. That was just to make sure that people are actually coming around the coaster and into the park, because otherwise I wouldn't have any people in here. But yeah, now going in, you will see that also there was a couple of changes in the queue area I did in these weeks. So let's actually fly in here. You know that already from an earlier version of it, but let's just fly through here real quick. So to show you some of the changes I did. Let me quickly check. So going over here, you've got a bit of a nice queue design where these things could be implemented to make like a bit of a zigzag if needed. And now this is the entirely new area. This is the kind of custom room with some of these chandeliers, and this is where the whole map would have been, and just making this all look a lot more nice and as if, you know, this was really in Space Mountain. It's very similar to what it actually looks like, but still there's a bit of a mistake here in where the queue ends, but I kind of made sure that everything looks nice and clean and so on. And then beside this cannon support, you're going actually into the station. Not really that much changed. I did a couple of changes here with the operator booth, with a bit of a different visual for where the windows technically are. And then I implemented also the coasters, which you've seen already in the last cut. But yeah, so the interior was the biggest part I changed to the final version of it. And let me quickly check if the lights are connected now. I'm not entirely sure if. Maybe in this version they are not. Could have been that I did this later, but because as I said, I did change a couple of things later on with the coaster when there were new things available. I almost feel like at this point we didn't even have the event time machine thingy. I forgot how that's called, by the way. Must have been something like the trigger effects. Is it in here? Let me quickly check what that is. It's not in here. Restaurant, blah, blah, blah. No, where is that? In scenery? I forgot where that was. Let me see. A display sequencer. There you go. This is what it was. The display sequencer and the right cam time machine. These things definitely would have been awesome, because with the time machine you could literally change that when the coaster goes up here, at this point where it dips into this room, actually everything turns dark. So this is something that you could have been used later. There's also the action photo in here that was triggered later on. So let's see if there's a coaster. Maybe it is all triggered, but where's the coaster? Is it broken down? Why is it not working? Wait, where do we have to go? Where am I? Sorry, there you go. So let's have a look. Is it broken down? No, there you go. Let's quickly see if we can see the coaster drive. Or was it broken down? I remember that I have one save. Oh yeah, there you go. Let's actually quickly jump on an on-ride to see if that works. So, oh wait, we're on the wrong train. Let's go into the actual train so you can see that. Is that the first one? Nope. Where's the one? Where is the one going into the coaster? This is the one. There you go. Let's have a look if everything works correctly. I forgot what that was, but actually you guys are also here to see an on-ride. You will never leave this video without an on-ride, will you? So let's have a little look if everything works as intended. So the stop didn't work, I know. There was something broken about the stop, but then we've got... Yeah, the action photo works, so that's that. Nice. Okay, so the coaster itself is much worse than I had it, than I remembered it to be. Yeah, again, it sounds like a weird excuse, but at this point, when I built the coaster, that was very early on, where I didn't practice to build better coasters. I didn't use the 4-meter method. I didn't have all the controls, like friction controls and stuff like that. So there is an explanation to why it is as bad as it is, but it is pretty bad. Not gonna lie, it's pretty bad. Anyways, it still looks fantastic, I think. And at least it's the correct layout, at least for the version 1 Space Mountain. I just want to check, final thing, if the lights are working. Let's quickly see if they are working. I want to see that. There you go, you've seen it. Yay! There it was. So it actually did work. The time machine and the sequencer was working already at this point. So, or maybe not the time machine, but the sequencer at least. So that's good to know. But yeah, so this is it for today's little 100-day Space Mountain overview. As you've seen, 2017 was the year where I did my revival of the original Space Mountain I built in the Planet Coaster Alpha. This is some 6.5, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, and oh boy, am I curious if there is a Planet Coaster 2 coming, and if so, if I can redo this yet again and build it a third time, 3 times charm. So if you guys are interested, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure to check out my Planet Coaster playlist if you haven't seen it. There's a whole playlist about this one over here with a speed build. And if you are curious to see how this is done piece by piece, you can check that out, obviously. And I really hope you guys are as excited as I am for a potential Planet Coaster 2. I mean, all the leaks in the last couple days that I haven't covered because I promised to not make another leak speculation video until it's announced finally. So at this point, you do. That's not a song. I was messing up my language. But you do you in terms of what you do with all these leaks. I will step out of this game for the moment. I am just pretty certain, and I was always pretty certain, that this game is coming eventually, so hopefully very soon. And if so, let's see what we can do with it. I'm very curious. The only thing I will ask you to do is subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because you will be notified whenever there's anything new about Planet Coaster or Planet Coaster 2. This is going to be happening over here on this channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you, as always, in the next one. Have a good day, and goodbye.